IVM.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to a bonus episode of Getting Meta. I hope you enjoyed the podcast episodes that I did, all 10 of them, and the other bonus episodes as well. And this week onwards, I'm going to try something new, try something interesting, and most importantly, I hope is useful. I'm going to start a section called Ask Meta, where I want you to send me your questions related to pretty much anything: careers, productivity, any trouble that you're facing, which I could possibly help with my own experience, and of course the collected wisdom from all these great people that I have spoken to during this podcast and otherwise as well. I have been the beneficiary of a lot of people's generosity in that sense. So without further ado, let's get down to this. The way we'll do this is some people have sent me voice notes, some people have sent me questions, some people have requested anonymity, so on and so forth. So it's going to be a variety in that sense. So let's start off with the series then. And I would love to hear your questions as well. All the notes have all the details. You can either DM me on Instagram or Twitter, or you can drop me a mail as well. All those details are in the notes. All right, on with it then. The first question comes to us from Abhijit.
Hi Chuck, my name is Abhijit. I had a career related question. So there is this huge FOMO happening right now where I see my colleagues, my friends, my cousins, so many of them are moving to Canada and Europe. And logically, it makes total sense. The standard of living is pretty high there, personal and individual safety is top notch. And in 2 3 years you'll have most of your needs taken care of, like a good house, car, etc., something that takes decades in India, and other reasons. And yet there is a friction internally, because I also know ki India mein there are many opportunities, and not in a nationalistic way, but considering it, this is my country at the end. So I had two questions on it. Did you face it too in your 20s, or if you're still facing it today? And do you feel that you can still move in there and start fresh in your, maybe in your late 30s or early 40s? Considering the view that, I'm in my late 20s and the world just tries to shove that down our throat ki 30 tak hi you can live your life. Uske baad to life is over. So yeah.
Abhijit, thanks so much for asking the first question that's going to be answered on Ask Meta. Very thoughtful questions. Very relevant, actually, because a lot of my friends are migrating to Canada right now. It seems to be the destination that's drawing in a lot of people, especially from the marketing content sort of space. So, to answer your questions, one, did I feel something like that when I was growing up? Actually, no. Strangely, I didn't. Maybe because work in India was keeping me busy, and I knew that within my space there was enough to grow in India itself. And when you work in marketing and advertising, I think you also become very tuned in to the audience. Like I knew, for example, that I knew the Indian audience, I knew the Indian cities, etc., and that that dictates the kind of advertising campaigns that you do, etc. Maybe not very easily transposable to another geography. At least I had that thinking at one point of time. I don't think it's really true anymore. With that being said, even though opportunities were there, I really didn't feel the need to move out myself. I thought there was enough to do in India. All my support system, and I'm not much of a family person, to be honest, but my friends, the entire setup, the infrastructure, and all that was over here. I was comfortable with India, if that makes sense. I liked what was happening over here. I had some freelance stuff also happening, and I knew that a lot of rebuilding would have to happen if I were to migrate somewhere else. And I think more than anything, let's face it, yeah, like I speak from a position of complete privilege when I say this, but I have to acknowledge that privilege and know that in some senses this will be as comfortable as I get right over here. Now, I'm not saying that if I move to Canada or Australia, that may not happen, but I don't see the need to do that while I've already, in a sense, done that over here. If that kind of makes sense. Again, I know this is not applicable to everyone. I'm just speaking from my perspective, since you had asked me whether I had gone through this. So that's a long answer. Short answer, did I ever face that and do I continue to face that? Not at all. There have been times when I've thought, hey, everybody's migrating over there. Should I go over there? Right? There are times that I get that FOMO as well. But then I realize there's still so much to do over here, and I stand a chance of building a better career, etc. over here. Now, in absolute terms, I might make more money is somewhere else purely because it's dollar terms that we're talking about. But I know for what I do, I have a decent reputation for what I do in some circles. At least I hope so. And I just want to carry on doing that, man. And now that I've started a freelance career over here, fairly well entrenched with that over here, I don't see the need to move. I don't think that's likely to happen. Movement within India might happen purely because now we can work remotely and all that, but even that's a few years away. So I hope that answers the first part of your question. But I want to address the last thing that you said, which is, society says that you live whatever you want till 30s. I think that's absolutely false. In fact, I'd like to think that since 30, I have tried more things. I have actually experimented a lot more. And that's open to interpretation any way that you want. But genuinely, I feel that I've lived a lot more after 30. I think I've tried a lot more things professionally. Obviously, like I started freelancing at the age of 34, 35. I've just explored beyond my comfort zone personally as well, be it the content I consume, the music I listen to. I keep discovering new bands every day. So I think that's completely wrong. And I also think that many of these decisions are just huge in our heads, right? It's not like even if you go to Canada today, yes, that's a big decision. But the fact of the matter is, if it doesn't work out for you, it's not like you're entrenched over there completely. You can come back. I do know people who have gone abroad and then have come to India or want to go somewhere else, whatever the case may be. So I feel that many of these, should I do this big thing decisions are a little overrated because usually it's just a matter of thinking, okay, what if this doesn't work out? And then you have a return path charted out. I hope that helps, Abhijit. Thanks once again for being the first person to ask, not just ask a question, but the first person to submit a voice note on Ask Meta. Let us move on to the next question.
Hi, Chuck. Thanks for taking out the time to host this session. I had two questions in mind, which I would love to hear your answer on. First being, what drove you towards digital marketing? And the second, why did you choose freelancing over like a cushy job in general? Would love to hear your answer on these questions.
Hey, Vaishnavi, thank you for that question. Fairly easy answers actually over here. The first one, what drove me to digital marketing, is quite simple: the 2008 recession. When I was in MICA, I desperately wanted to work in an ad agency. I don't know, just one of those things. I just wanted to work in an ad agency desperately. It was my dream. And clearly, being the recession year and recession batch, agencies weren't recruiting, so that dream went bye-bye. While the institute did try to do its best, many of us did seek out what to do externally. So I actually did get a job on campus, but it's a pretty crap job. I left that and I managed to get into a digital agency on the strength of some digital work that I had done in said crappy company, and also the fact that I was just keen on digital in general. I was always, doing blog work for MICA, and I was supposed to be more digitally savvy and all that. But I never thought that digital marketing would become a career. Neither did I even know that it was a thing back then. It was just one of those things. Hey, here's an agency that's actually using social media to provide marketing solutions. How cool is that? And this was way back in 2009. One thing led to another. I stayed over there for a while, built up creds, and I realized that I was one of the few people in my batch or in general that were actually actively working on digital marketing. Keep in mind that I was one of the few MBAs who was kind of doing that. As a result of which, young old me got invited to some B school conferences, was even invited to teach at a couple of B schools, and all that just ended up building profile. And the fact of the matter was, digital marketing was itself such a nascent stage that we all just created our own theories around the way. And even within the agency, I was lucky enough to work at two of India's biggest and best agencies, Ogilvy and Leo Burnett. And because I was, sort of like a subject matter expert in some sense, and I was very comfortable with digital in a way, in the sense that I genuinely loved the internet and I always had these references and things like that. So people would always turn to me for providing digital gyan and stuff like that. I think this is one thing that led to another. It is one of those happy accidents that happened. If it weren't for the 2008 recession, I might have been in a mainline agency, and goodness knows what that would have led to. Not saying that that might have been a less desirable path. It was what I wanted after all. But to answer your question, that was really about it. And I guess the larger lesson is life throws various things at you, make the best of them, and see what happens. And today, for whatever it's worth, I seem to be the digital guy among some people. And I guess I've helped that reputation by doing a course and writing about digital and all that. Generally love the internet, and I think it has a lot to offer marketing. And I just try to look at it rationally. So yeah, that's really how I got into digital, or what drove me to digital. So I can't say I was attracted. It was really a series of happy accidents and some Wall Street experiments, dare I say, that led me to where I am. To answer your second question, what got me into freelancing? That's interesting too. I've always freelanced in some capacity or the other. When back when I had that first job that I spoke about, or the second job rather, I was always interested in wanting to do something on the side, something that was not related to work. So that was usually in the form of cartooning, writing some humor stuff. Later on, tried a few other experiments as well, including a ill-fated stint as a stand-up comedian. Random things I used to do, and all this money was good. I needed it at the time, I guess, because it was my day job wasn't making me all that much. Again, advertising issues and all that. But later, I realized I didn't need to continue doing all the freelancing, and work was taking another level altogether. So I stopped freelancing for a while, but I was familiar with it. I had done the whole freelancing circuit, as in working till 6 and then starting off freelance work after that. I'd done that entire thing. And later in around 2018 end was when I was sort of frustrated with my day job at the time. I liked what I was doing, but I didn't need to do what I was, what they were paying me to do in some sense. They didn't need me rather for it. So then I was evaluating what my options could be. And then I just decided, hey, why not take the route of freelance? Because I know there's enough demand out there for what I have to offer, hopefully. And I did want to explore some other things. I wanted to get back to writing. I wanted to try a couple of other things. I wanted to get back to teaching, which is something that I really enjoyed. And thankfully, when I took the plunge in early 2019, I had enough clients come my way. I had some teaching assignments. I ended up teaching a course of my own. So a whole lot of things actually fell together. So I think I was fortunate in some sense, and I took the plunge at the right time, I think. So that was what drove me to freelance. And I think it's actually worked out pretty well. In my first year itself, I was earning as much as my job would have. And now I'm like going above that. I don't think I left a cushy job though. No, no job in marketing, at least in the spaces that I worked in, advertising, etc., would be in that sense. But yeah, you have to hustle all the time. But I don't regret the decision at all. I think freelancing has worked out well for me, and it's something that I actively encourage anyone who has a little bit of hustle and a little bit of ability to get into. I think it's a great experiment to try. I always look at these things in terms of what's the worst thing that could happen, right? If freelance didn't work out, I know that there were enough doors open for me, and I think that's the way people should approach many of these decisions. I don't think any of these decisions are set in stone. It's not like if you take up something that you have to be married to it necessarily, unless of course you are marrying, in which case you are literally married to it. But that aside, that's really how I got into it. I think I gave myself a year to see whether it would work out, and now I can't imagine going back. So I hope that answers your question, and I hope that encourages you to get into freelance. It's a great world out here. You can work on your own time, and remember, you have only yourself to blame when things go wrong. Thanks for the question, Vaishnavi. And let's move on to the next one. And this question comes in from Prem, who I'm going to read out his question. Great to know you're doing an AMA. Thanks, Prem. Looking forward to it. Here's my question. I have 12 years of experience in content marketing. How can I promote myself as a content strategy consultant? I have a full-time job now, but I would like to supplement my paycheck with some freelancing or consulting gigs. Thanks for the question, Prem. And I think I mean, this is all about personal branding to some sense. To some sense, you need to make a little bit of noise about what it is that you do, what it is that you want to do. But I must reiterate that when I say create noise, I don't, you need to demonstrate more than say, if that makes sense. So it's not enough for you to go to the rooftop and say, hey, I'm a great content guy, I'm a great marketing guy. I think you need to demonstrate that and let people take that inference away. Let other people say that you're a great content thinker and something like that, right? It's the same thing for brands, right? A brand saying we are the greatest insurance product around is one thing, which will be dealt rightly so with a fair bit of skepticism. It's another thing if people have voted that this is the greatest insurance brand on the planet. I don't know why I chose insurance over there. I'm sorry about that. But the same thing for you. I think, for example, if you are going to promote yourself as a content strategy consultant, one, keep all your bases ready, right? In the sense, keep a website ready or keep a LinkedIn profile with enough of your work ready and all that. And it's, again, over here also demonstrate rather than say. Put up examples of your work, say what you have done, and then let people infer whether that work is good or not, right? Put up work that you're proud of and constantly seek out work that you want to put up on your profile, right? So initially it might mean you have to do a lot of cheap work or something. And by cheap, I don't mean like tutty work. I mean stuff like you might do it for the cheap, but that's fine because you're investing in yourself in some sense so that you can have an example to showcase on your profile so that tomorrow you end up charging more amount of money. So that's number one. Number two, if you're looking at marketing, for instance, and have an opinion on things that are happening in the world of marketing. Don't just go out and say, oh, I'm a great marketer or hire me or whatever. I know you won't do that, having known you personally, but you get what I'm saying, right? Don't say I'm a marketing person, I have so many years of experience. So demonstrate that. I think some of the best minds in marketing and technology demonstrate this very well using Twitter, using LinkedIn, or whatever it is. And it's very easy to separate out who's fluffing and who's actually thinking through something, right? I think especially in spaces like content and marketing, which are so subjective, I don't think anyone's looking for a perfect answer. I think they're just looking for somebody who has a logical way of approaching certain things, right? And that is something that you can demonstrate very well on these social platforms. So use those platforms for that. So one, have your base ready, in the sense, have your website or your LinkedIn profile or whatever it is, showcasing your content strategy, etc. Be specific wherever possible. I think that really helps. I always advise freelancers to be as specific as they can with respect to their offering, and that really helps get the right kind of client. As in, like, it becomes sharper. Your audience becomes smaller, but your chances of conversion become a lot higher, if that makes sense, and you automatically eliminate a lot of competition. So yeah, that's about it, man. I think you'll just need to experiment with it, especially if you're just starting out. Experiment a few little things, start with a few projects on the side, see what works for you. It's one thing to say freelancing, is another thing to do freelancing. So try it out, see if it works, see the parts that work well for you, see if there is somebody that you want to collaborate with, see if there's stuff that you need to do to plug in certain gaps. And I say take the leap when you're ready. I think it's, like I've said several times on this show and on my own Twitter, it's a great time to be a freelancer. It's a great time to consider it. And I think the industry that we work in, marketing, content, etc., I think it's extremely forgiving of mistakes, especially like this. And I think even if, God forbid, it didn't turn out to be a successful experiment for you, I think the experience that you gain will be very rich and you will be able to count them back. Hope this answer helps, Prem. So, and all the best with whatever it is that you're doing, and all the best with the content strategy consulting that you want to do. Again, I will just say this again, demonstrate rather than say. I think that's the most powerful thing that you can do. All right, now for the last question for this episode. And the last question I have is actually an anonymous one, or a person is requested to keep it anonymous. When is the right time to quit a job? Excellent question. I think many of us might have thought about this at many points of time. I know I have several points of time. I think, there are a few heuristics that you can keep in mind. One is, when you are not getting enough out of the job. Now, that could be money wise, that can be creative or professional satisfaction, that could be work-life balance, whatever the case may be, right? I had a simple thumb rule at one point of time, which was, how am I going to justify each month in my next interview? Right. And when that situation happened in my last job, I realized that I need to move on, because with every Even though I was liking what I was doing and the space that I was working in, and I had some really good colleagues and all that, the work itself that I was doing, I wasn't very kicked about it, to be very honest. So I knew that every month, every 2 months I was spending in the company, it like took me a little backwards in my career in some sense, right? I felt I was doing more intellectual work before that. So that's when I realized I needed to get out. So I think that's one way of looking at it. The second way of looking at it is whenever we shift jobs, right, there are two forces at play: one the pull and one the push, right? The push is what's most common when people are leaving. There's a saying that people leave bosses and not jobs, and that is true to some extent. I think, thankfully, hasn't been the case for me all that much. I think the pull has to be more than the push, if that makes sense. I think what you're getting into needs to excite you more than what you're getting out of. Because what ends up happening is if you leave a job for the sake of leaving a job, it's likely that those same annoyances are going to affect you in your next job. For example, many people are frustrated in one agency, they revenge apply and they will go to another agency. Hey, guess what? The same problems are going to be in that other agency as well. So, those kind of things always end up happening. So hence, I think the pull needs to be more than push. In my own case, when I was frustrated with what I was doing in my last job, when I was looking at the exit paths, there was nothing that really pulled me as much. Be it going back to advertising, which which I definitely did not want to do, or go on the client side or something. The most exciting thing turned out to be freelancing, which had this magnetic sort of like pull, and that is something that I really was drawn towards, and hence the pull. And I remember something that a friend had told me at one point of time when I sought his career advice. He said, if you're not scared, then it's not worth getting into. And I think there's so much wisdom in that, right? And not just for careers, but really for anything else. If it doesn't scare you, then you know what's going to happen, and there's no emotional upside to something like that. So that's how I think about it. That's how I think about leaving jobs. I think if you are frustrated in the job that you are in, and you definitely do see somewhere else where your talents could be utilized, be it another company, be it on your own, or just maybe studying again or something else, I think that would be a good time to a good time to quit. And I think, I don't know what space you work in specifically, but I think the market is pretty good if you are a reasonably talented, reasonably experienced professional in the technology slash marketing slash content space. So a lot of demand for stuff like that happening. I would think that if you just hustle a little bit, you could make it as a freelancer if you work in one of these spaces, which will give you enough rich experience. If it doesn't work out, you can just go back again. My way of thinking, and this might be a good way to end this episode, is actually just thinking about the worst case scenario at all points of time. Many times we over glorify, we don't pay enough attention rather to what the worst case scenario could be, especially in India, where we have this like don't speak ill, and don't jinx it and all that. I think that's utter hogwash. I think you should actively think of the worst case scenario at every single point of time for everything, because then you prepare for it. You're mentally prepared for it, plus you have taken steps to make sure if that thing happens, you are well prepared. And I think that served me very, very well. I don't think I would have gotten to freelance if I didn't think about what the worst case scenario would be. I'd prepared for it. I had saved up money for it, all that. So yeah, think of the worst case scenario, and I hope this is a good enough answer for you to quit your next job. DM me and let me know what happens. All right, that's the end of episode 1 of Ask Meta, which is a bonus episode of Getting Meta, of course. Please send in your questions, and I will carry on this series as long as I continue getting questions from you guys. I am Chuck of All Trades on Instagram, Chuck_Gopal on Twitter, and my email ID is chuck@chuckofalltrades.in. All those links are in the show notes. Thank you for listening, guys, and see you next week with another set of your questions.
Hey everybody, it's been another great week on the IVM Podcast Network. On Storytellers and Storysellers, Vineet talks to Mansi Gupta, aka Max Play, about her rapid growth as a female gaming creator on YouTube. On Paisa Vaisa, Anupam speaks to Sandeep Bagla, CEO of Trust AMC, about the status of death funds during the pandemic and their importance in portfolios. On a show about crypto, Rohan asks the question, what is a crypto wallet? To Tarusha Mittal, podcaster and COO at Oro Pocket, Unifarm and Cloud Reno. On the Life Manifesto, Zarina dives deep into the imposter syndrome and shares some helpful techniques to overcome it. And on Football Shipball, Gaurav and Savram talk about the showstopper game of the week, Liverpool versus Manchester. Do follow us on social media. We're IVM Podcast on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. And remember, if you're enjoying this show or any of our others for that matter, please do tell a friend. We really appreciate you spreading this. Word of mouth helps a lot. And finally, this week, we'd like to thank our sponsors, Cred, Bank of Baroda, Quarter, CoinSwitch, Kuber, Slay Coffee, and Intel. We really appreciate the support.
Do you wonder why China does the things that it does? Or want to know how we could improve online privacy? Or perhaps you're thinking about how we can kickstart India's economy. If you'd like to search for the answers to such questions, check out All Things Policy, a daily public policy podcast that covers everything from employment figures to aircraft carriers. Tune in from Monday to Friday for new episodes and fresh takes.